AITA for keeping proof after my parents skipped my wedding because of my sister? I'm Donald, 32, and Grace and I had only been married for 9 days when I found out the quietest part of our wedding had become the loudest thing my family had ever heard. We were sitting at our kitchen table with thank you cards spread everywhere. Grace had a black pen tucked behind her ear and a stack of envelopes in front of her. I was trying to remember who gave us the cast iron skillet and who gave us the decorative bowl that looked like it belonged in a hotel lobby when my phone buzzed for maybe the 50th time that morning. At first, I ignored it. We had just gotten back from our honeymoon the night before, and I wanted one normal newlywed morning. Coffee. Leftover cake from the freezer. Grace laughing because I kept writing, "Thank you for celebrating with us," like a robot. Then my phone buzzed again, slid halfway across the table, and Grace looked up. "Read the oldest message first," she said. "That usually tells you where the fire started." The oldest message was from Aunt Carol. "Donald, I know you're hurt, but this was too much. Your mother hasn't left the house." I stared at it, confused. Then I opened the family group chat, which was named Everybody in One Place, because apparently even family dysfunction needs a cheerful label. There were hundreds of messages. Some from cousins. Some from relatives I only heard from on holidays. A few from my dad that just said, "Call me now." Then I saw my mother's name. "Take it down, Donald. Please. I am begging you." I hadn't posted anything. Grace put her pen down. "What happened?" I opened the link everyone kept arguing about. It was a wedding video. Not the official one from the videographer. A shorter highlight reel, edited by my best friend and best man, Mason. The thumbnail showed me standing at the front of the aisle in my suit, looking toward 2 empty seats in the front row. My parents' seats. For a second, I couldn't press play. My parents, Elaine and Richard, have always said they love me. And for most of my life, I believed them. They showed up sometimes. They sent birthday texts. My mom still called me sweetheart when she wanted me to soften. My dad still slapped my shoulder and said, "Proud of you, kid," when there were people around. But my older sister, Vanessa, has always needed more. That was the sentence I grew up around. Vanessa needed more patience. Vanessa needed more attention. Vanessa needed more understanding. Vanessa needed everybody to be careful with her feelings, because if Vanessa got upset, the entire house rearranged itself. She is 38 now, but the family still treats her like a storm warning. When I was 11, my parents showed up late to a school performance because Vanessa couldn't find the dress she wanted for a party and my mom had to calm her down. I remember standing on stage in a paper crown, scanning the back rows until the last 10 minutes, when my dad slipped into a seat and gave me a thumbs up like that fixed it. When I turned 16, my birthday dinner was canceled because Vanessa got into a fight with her boyfriend and couldn't be alone. My mom promised we would redo it the next weekend. We didn't. When I got an award in high school, my parents missed the ceremony because Vanessa had what my mom called a panic night. I remember calling my dad from the parking lot afterward, holding the little plaque in my lap, and hearing him say, "Don't make this harder than it already is." A few years later, I drove myself home from an event where parents were supposed to pick us up because my dad had taken Vanessa shopping to cheer her up. I told people he got stuck in traffic. I was already good at protecting them by then. My mother had one line she used more than any other. "You know your sister needs us more." My father had his own version. "Be reasonable, Donald." So I became reasonable. I stopped asking for much. I stopped making plans that required them to choose me. I told myself I was easygoing, independent, low maintenance. My family took that as proof that they could disappoint me without consequences. Grace noticed it before I did. Early in our relationship, my parents canceled dinner with us 20 minutes before they were supposed to arrive. Grace had made a chicken pasta thing from a recipe she found online, and I had cleaned the apartment like my mother was coming to inspect it with a white glove. My mom called and said Vanessa was upset because a guy she liked had gone quiet on her. "She needs me tonight," Mom said. "You understand, right?" I said, "Yeah, it's fine," so fast that Grace looked at me like I had dropped something breakable. After I hung up, she turned the heat down on the stove and asked, "Is it fine?" "I'm used to it." That wasn't what I asked. I tried to laugh it off. Vanessa gets intense. My parents just handle it. Grace folded her arms, not angry at me, just steady. Being used to something is not the same as being okay with it. That sentence stayed with me longer than I wanted to admit. When Grace and I got engaged, I decided I was going to do one thing differently. I was going to say exactly what I needed. 2 months before the wedding, I asked my parents to come over. I didn't want to ambush them over the phone, and I didn't want to say it in front of Vanessa. Grace was there, but she let me talk. My mom sat on our couch with her purse still on her lap, already looking nervous. My dad kept checking the time, like emotional accountability had a parking meter. I said, I need to ask you something directly. Mom reached for my hand. Of course, sweetheart. I need to know that you're coming to the wedding. Not maybe. Not if Vanessa is okay. Coming. My dad sighed. Donald. No, I said, and my own voice surprised me. I'm not trying to be cruel. I know Vanessa struggles with things, but I can't handle being abandoned at my own wedding. I need you both there. Mom's eyes filled instantly. Tears were always nearby with her, like she kept them in her purse. How can you even ask that? She said. You're my son. Because I have to ask, I said. Dad leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Nothing is keeping us from your wedding. We'll be in that front row. Mom squeezed my hand. Sweetheart, nothing is going to keep us away. They RSVP'd. Their names were on the seating chart. They had reserved seats in the front row. They were included in the family photo schedule. My dad was supposed to give a short toast. My mom even texted Grace to ask what color she should wear so she wouldn't clash in pictures. For a while, I let myself believe them. The rehearsal dinner felt almost normal. Relatives made awkward jokes about who was going to cry during the ceremony. Mason bet me $5 that he would cry before Grace did. My dad tapped his water glass with a fork and practiced the opening line of his toast, which was mostly a joke about me learning how to tie my shoes late. Vanessa sat near the end of the table, quiet in a sharp way. She smiled when people looked at her, but it never reached her eyes. Every time someone congratulated me and Grace, she looked down at her phone. At one point, one of my cousins said, Donald, man, tomorrow's your day. Vanessa muttered, not quite under her breath. Must be nice when everyone thinks your timing is perfect. Grace heard it. I heard it. My mom heard it too, because she immediately touched Vanessa's arm and whispered something to her. Vanessa left early. My mom said she had a headache. That night, Grace asked me if I was worried. I was brushing my teeth, standing in the bathroom doorway because we were trying not to see each other too much before the wedding, even though we both knew that tradition was already ruined by living together. A little, I admitted. Grace leaned against the dresser in sweatpants and one of my old t-shirts. Do you want to call your parents? No, they promised. She washed my face. Okay. The next morning, I was in the groom's room with Mason and 2 other friends. There was a lint roller on the counter, a half-eaten breakfast sandwich I couldn't finish, and my tie clip kept sitting crooked no matter how many times I fixed it. Mason kept telling me to breathe like I was about to go into surgery instead of get married. My phone rang at 11:07 a.m. Mom. I didn't answer right away because the photographer was taking a candid shot of Mason pretending to polish my shoes with a napkin. A minute later, the voicemail notification appeared. I played it once. Then I sat down. My mother's voice was shaky and careful, the way she sounded when she had already decided something and wanted me to make it easier for her. Sweetheart, I'm so sorry. Your sister is not okay. She saw those engagement photos from her ex last night, and then everything with today, with you getting married first, it has her in a bad place. She keeps saying she wants to drive and disappear. And we can't leave her alone like this. Please understand. We love you. We are so sorry. A few seconds later, my dad texted. We'll make this up to you. Please don't make a scene today. I read that line maybe 10 times. Please don't make a scene today. Not I'm sorry. Not I'm on my way. Not you deserve better. Just don't make this embarrassing for us. Mason saw my face and walked over. What happened? I handed him the phone. He listened. His jaw tightened so hard I thought he might crack a tooth. I'm going to call them, he said. No. Donald. No, I said again. I need a minute. I wanted to call them. I wanted to beg. I wanted to ask my mother how she could hug me the night before and already be halfway out the door. I wanted to ask my dad what price exactly made missing his son's wedding something he could make up later. Instead, I turned my phone face down on the counter. Grace found out because I couldn't hide it from her. I tried. I really did. I told Mason to say nothing, but Grace knows my face too well. She came to the hallway outside the bridal room with her makeup done and her hair pinned up, holding the bottom of her robe so it wouldn't drag. When she saw me, her smile disappeared. What did they do? She asked. I almost broke right there. I played the voicemail for her. Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. She just took my hands and held them between us. They chose not to come, she said. That doesn't mean we let them take the day too. I don't want this to ruin it for you. Grace's voice got quiet. Donald, I am angry because I love you. But I am still marrying you in about an hour. They don't get to be the center of that. So we got married. I walked down the aisle and saw the two reserved chairs in the front row with small white cards that said Elaine and Richard. They were beside Grace's parents, who sat shoulder to shoulder, dressed up, smiling through tears. The empty chairs looked louder than people. Right before the ceremony started, Grace's father stepped beside me. He wasn't a dramatic man. He usually said more with a nod than most people said in 10 sentences. He put one hand on my shoulder and said, "You're not standing here alone." I had to look away. Grace walked down the aisle, and for those minutes, I chose her. I chose the woman in front of me, not the two people missing from the front row. I said my vows with my voice only shaking once. Grace squeezed my hands every time she knew I was drifting toward the empty seats. The reception was good. Not perfect, because real things are never perfect, but good. People danced. Someone's kid fell asleep under a table. Mason cried during his speech and had to hand his note cards to one of the groomsmen while everyone laughed kindly at him. His speech started funny. He talked about me showing up early to everything, helping people move, remembering birthdays, and bringing soup when friends were sick even if the soup came from a grocery store container that I pretended was homemade. Then his voice changed. "Donald is the guy who shows up," Mason said, even when life didn't always show up for him. Some people become steady because life gave them steady. Some people become steady because they had to be it for themselves. He didn't say my parents' names. He didn't say Vanessa's. But I saw a few relatives glance at the empty seats that had been moved aside after the ceremony. Later, during the parent dance, Grace danced with her father first. Then, because my mother wasn't there, Grace's mother took my hand. She didn't make a speech out of it. She just said, "Come on, Donald," and pulled me onto the floor. I smiled through most of it. I cried once in the hallway afterward, where I thought nobody saw except Grace. Mason saw. We left for our honeymoon the next day. Grace and I agreed we were not going to spend the first week of our marriage managing my family. We kept our phones mostly on airplane mode. We used them for photos, restaurant reservations, and checking whether the little beachside breakfast place was open. We ignored the family group chat. I didn't know Mason had made the video. He edited it using guest phone clips, a few shots from the photographer's preview folder, and reception footage people had uploaded to our shared cloud album. It showed Grace walking toward me. It showed us laughing when I struggled with the ring for half a second. It showed Mason wiping his face during his speech. It also showed the empty front row seats. Not for long, just enough. Then it cut to a still image of my dad's text. "We'll make this up to you. Please don't make a scene today." Then my mother's voicemail played over a shot of Grace and me standing in the hallway, my forehead against hers while she held my hands. Mason ended it with a clip of me dancing with Grace's mother, and then a black screen with white text. He spent his whole life saving seats for people who kept choosing not to sit in them. He posted it to the wedding hashtag and added it to the shared album where relatives had been putting reception clips. It didn't go viral in the way strangers use that word. Nobody famous shared it. But it spread through our circle like a grease fire. Family members saw it. Friends saw it. People from the wedding saw it. People who had wondered why my parents weren't there suddenly had the answer. A cousin commented, "Wait, are those his parents' chairs?" Someone else wrote, "That's brutal." Then the family group chat exploded while I was eating pancakes with my new wife and pretending phones didn't exist. When I watched the video at our kitchen table 9 days later, I felt 3 things at once. I felt angry at Mason. That voicemail was private. My pain was private. He had not asked me if I was ready for people to hear my mother's voice making excuses 3 hours before my wedding. I felt embarrassed. Not because the video lied, but because it told the truth in a way I could not soften. And I felt relieved in a way that made me feel guilty. For once, the story wasn't being turned into Vanessa had a rough morning or Donald is independent. He understood. The chairs were empty on camera. My mother's words were there. My dad's text was there. Nobody could pat me on the back and tell me I had misunderstood. Grace sat beside me, reading my face instead of the comments. "I hate that he posted the voicemail," I said. "I know. I also hate that I don't want it gone." She nodded. "I know that too. What do you think?" Grace took a breath before answering. If you want it taken down because you truly want it down, I will support you. But I will not support you taking it down just because they finally feel what you've been carrying. That was when Aunt Carol called. Aunt Carol is my dad's sister, and she has always tried to be the reasonable one. She believes every family conflict can be solved with coffee, soft voices, and nobody bringing up anything older than 3 days. She left me a voicemail before I called her back. "Donald, I came here ready to tell you to take it down," she said when she answered. "Your mother is a mess. Your father says you approved that video, and now you're acting surprised because people reacted badly." "I didn't approve anything," I said. She paused. "Elaine said you did." She lied. "Donald, I did not know Mason posted it until today." Aunt Carol sighed. "Then you need to talk to your parents and fix this." "Fix what?" "The public part." I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Not the missing my wedding part. She went quiet. Then she said, "I'm going to send you what your mom sent me. Maybe you can understand what happened with Vanessa." A minute later, screenshots came through. Aunt Carol meant to send me the messages from the wedding morning. She was trying to prove that Vanessa had really been upset, but she sent too much of the thread. The first screenshot was from the night of the rehearsal dinner, 10:42 p.m. "Vanessa, if you go tomorrow, don't expect me to answer when I need you. Elaine, we are trying to keep everyone calm. Please don't do this tonight. Vanessa, I can't sit around watching everyone clap because Donald got married before me. It makes me look pathetic. Elaine, nobody thinks that. Vanessa, then don't choose him." I stared at that line until it stopped looking like words. Then another screenshot showed my dad in a separate text with my mom. "Richard, we can stop by before the ceremony if she settles, but if she keeps escalating, we'll tell Donald it happened this morning. We'll tell Donald it happened this morning." I put my phone down because my hand had started shaking. Grace read the screenshots after I slid the phone to her. Her face changed slowly, not into shock, but into something colder. "They knew," she said. I nodded. "They knew the night before. They hugged me at the rehearsal dinner. My dad joked about his toast. My mom asked Grace where she wanted family photos. Vanessa had already given the ultimatum, and my parents had already started planning the lie. It was not a sudden emergency. It was a choice with a cover story. Before I could even decide what to do with that, Mason sent me a voice memo. His voice sounded rough. "Hey, I know you saw it by now, and I know you might be mad. I'm sorry I used the voicemail without asking you. I was angry, and I thought somebody needed to stop letting them bury it. But I should have asked. I won't pretend I handled it perfectly. I also won't pretend the video lied." Then he sent screenshots from everybody in one place. My mom had written, "Donald approved the post, and now he's acting like he had nothing to do with it. I never thought my son would punish me publicly for one impossible decision." My dad wrote, "He's always been dramatic about Vanessa. This is what happens when people encourage resentment." Vanessa wrote, "He has been waiting for a chance to make me look crazy." There it was. They had missed my wedding, lied about when they decided to miss it, and then told relatives I had planned the video to humiliate them. I called Mason. He answered on the first ring. "I'm sorry. You crossed a line," I said. "I know. You don't get to decide when my pain becomes public." "I know." I looked at Grace, who was sitting across the table with her hand over her mouth, angry enough to stay silent. I said, "I'm also not asking you to delete it yet." Mason let out a breath. "Okay. I need to speak for myself now. Not you. Me." "Good," he said. "You should have been able to do that years ago." For the next 2 hours, I gathered everything. Not to blast it across the internet. Not to make some revenge documentary. I just needed the truth in one place before my family turned it into fog again. I saved my mother's voicemail as a transcript because I could not keep replaying her voice. I saved my dad's text. I found the messages where my parents promised they would be there, including my mom asking Grace about dress colors and my dad confirming the photo schedule. I downloaded the RSVP confirmation. I saved a screenshot of the seating chart with Elaine and Richard in the front row. Then I found older texts. Mom canceling dinner because Vanessa had a hard day. Dad saying, "Your sister needs space. Let's reschedule," on the day we were supposed to celebrate my promotion years ago. Vanessa texting me once, "It's not my fault they care when I'm upset." The wedding photographer had emailed while we were away too. The subject line was gallery preview question. Inside, she wrote, "Would you like us to keep the empty seat images in the final gallery? They are part of the ceremony coverage. but we can remove them if they feel too sensitive. I sat there staring at that email for a long time. Even the photographer had understood those chairs meant something. Grace labeled envelopes while I worked, giving me space without leaving me alone. Every so often, she slid a thank you card toward me and said, "Sign this one," like she was reminding me that our wedding was not only the part my parents ruined. After I had the timeline together, I posted one pinned comment under Mason's video. I did not dump every screenshot publicly. I did not call Vanessa names. I did not say my parents were monsters. I wrote exactly what I could prove. I wrote, "I won't argue with people who only heard the version where I'm cruel." I did not know this video was posted until after our honeymoon. I am angry that a private voicemail was used without my permission. And Mason and I have talked about that. But I am not deleting the first proof I've ever had that I wasn't imagining the pattern. My parents promised to attend our wedding, had reserved front row seats, and did not come. They have since told relatives I approved this post to punish them. That is false. If the lying continues, I will share the full timeline privately with the people being used to pressure me. You don't get to miss my wedding and then decide how quietly I'm allowed to be hurt. I hovered over the post button for almost a full minute. Then I posted it. My dad called within 5 minutes. I let it ring. He called again. I texted, "I'm not discussing this over the phone." He replied, "Take the video down first, and then we'll talk." I wrote back, "No." Mom texted next. "Sweetheart, please. You have no idea what it feels like to hear people talk about me like I'm some monster." I stared at that for a while before answering. "You missed my wedding. That sentence doesn't get smaller because you're embarrassed." She didn't answer. The next day, my parents demanded a Sunday family meeting. They didn't phrase it like a request. My dad wrote, "Your mother and I expect you to come over Sunday so we can resolve this privately." I responded, "Grace will be with me. Mason's name will not be dragged through the mud without me being allowed to respond. If anyone raises their voice at Grace, we leave." Dad replied, "This is family business." I wrote, "Grace is my family." Sunday afternoon, Grace and I went to my aunt and uncle's house because Aunt Carol said neutral ground would help. It did not feel neutral. It felt like walking into a room where everyone had already chosen their seats. My mother sat on the couch with tissues in her lap. My father stood near the window with his arms crossed. Vanessa sat in an armchair, scrolling on her phone like she had been dragged into a meeting about someone else's parking ticket. Aunt Carol was at the dining table with a mug of coffee she never drank. A few other relatives were there too, including 2 cousins who had been active in the group chat. Grace sat beside me. She didn't reach for my hand because she knew I needed both of mine free. But her knee touched mine, steady and quiet. Mom started crying before anyone said hello. "You're letting strangers humiliate your mother," she said. "They're not strangers," I said. "They're family and wedding guests. You know what I mean." Dad jumped in. "It was one bad night. We handled it badly, fine, but this has gone too far." "One bad night," I repeated. Vanessa looked up from her phone. "I didn't ask him to post that video." "No," I said. "You just asked them not to come." Her face tightened. "That's not fair." Aunt Carol leaned forward. "Donald, I came here ready to tell you to take it down. I still think the voicemail was a lot." "I agree," I said. That seemed to surprise people. Mason crossed a line using the voicemail without asking me. I told him that. He apologized. This meeting is not about whether Mason handled everything perfectly. He didn't. This meeting is about whether the video lied. My dad shook his head. "You're turning this into a courtroom." "No," I said. "I'm turning it into a timeline." I put the folder on the coffee table. My mom's crying got louder. "I was caught between 2 children, Donald. A mother should never be punished for that." I opened the folder. "You weren't caught. You chose. Then you lied about when you chose." Dad said, "Careful." Grace's knee pressed lightly against mine. I played the voicemail first. The room went quiet except for my mother's recorded voice saying Vanessa couldn't emotionally handle watching me get married first. Nobody looked at me while it played. Then I showed my dad's text. "We'll make this up to you. Please don't make a scene today." One of my cousins looked uncomfortable. I showed the messages from 2 months before, where I directly asked them not to let Vanessa derail the wedding, and they promised nothing would keep them away. I showed the RSVP, the seating chart, the photo schedule with Dad's toast listed after dinner. Then I showed the rehearsal night screenshots. Vanessa's face went pale when she saw them. "Where did you get those?" she snapped. "Aunt Carol sent them." Aunt Carol blinked. "I sent the morning ones." You sent the whole thread. I read Vanessa's messages out loud, not because I enjoyed it, but because I wanted them to stop floating around like something vague. If you go tomorrow, don't expect me to answer when I need you. I can't sit around watching everyone clap because Donald got married before me. It makes me look pathetic. Then don't choose him. My mother whispered. She was in pain. I know, I said. And you made her pain the price of attending my wedding. Dad rubbed his forehead. We thought she might calm down. You thought she might calm down? I said. And you still hugged me at the rehearsal dinner and promised me you'd be there while already planning what to tell me if she didn't. No one answered. So I showed the message from my dad to my mom. We can stop by before the ceremony if she settles, but if she keeps escalating, we'll tell Donald it happened this morning. Aunt Carol picked up the printout slowly. Elaine, she said, which part of this is a lie? My mother looked at her, then at me, then down at the tissues in her lap. She did not answer. That silence did more than any speech I could have given. Dad tried to recover. Fine. We handled it badly. I said that. What do you want? I'll write a check for part of the wedding. The photographer, the DJ, whatever. We'll have a proper celebration with everyone. But the video comes down. I almost laughed again. You still think this is a bill? I said. I'm trying to make it right. No, you're trying to make it quiet. He looked irritated now, the way he always did when feelings became inconvenient. Be reasonable, Donald. The internet doesn't need to know our business. This isn't the internet. This is our family finally knowing what happened. Vanessa stood up. Everyone acts like I'm unstable now because Donald wanted sympathy. I turned to her. I didn't post the video. But you're keeping it up. I'm refusing to delete proof just because it makes the lie harder to tell. Her eyes filled. With Vanessa, tears had always been a fire alarm. People moved when she cried. Chairs shifted. Plans changed. Apologies appeared before anyone knew what they were apologizing for. This time, nobody moved fast enough for her. You're making everyone hate me, she said. No, I said. For once, I'm not protecting you from the consequences of what you asked for. Mom gasped like I had slapped her. Grace spoke then, quietly, and everyone looked at her because she had been silent so long. You missed our wedding, she said. Then you tried to make my husband apologize for being hurt. That is not peace. That is control. My dad's eyes narrowed. Grace, this is between us and our son. No, I said before she could answer. Grace is my wife. Our marriage is not where you come to hide from consequences. I closed the folder but kept my hand on top of it. These are my boundaries, I said. I'm not deleting the video or my statement while you keep lying about the wedding. I won't attend family events where Vanessa is allowed to create a crisis and then blame everyone for reacting. You don't get to be involved in my marriage until you apologize clearly to both of us. Not with money. Not with dinner. Not with some replacement celebration, but with actual accountability. And if anyone keeps blaming Grace or Mason for what you chose, I will send them the timeline. Mom cried harder. So you're cutting us off? No, I said. I'm cutting off the part where I pretend this doesn't hurt so you can feel like good parents. Dad said, you're going to regret this. That one landed, but not the way he wanted. Because I realized the thing I regretted most was how many years I had helped them make me smaller. Grace stood first. I stood with her. At the door, Aunt Carol stopped me. Her face looked different from when we arrived. Less certain. Less protective of the wrong people. Donald, she said, I'm sorry. I didn't know it went back like that. I nodded because I didn't trust myself to say anything kind yet. After that meeting, things did not magically heal. My mother did not suddenly become accountable. My father did not turn into a man who could name pain without trying to buy his way around it. Vanessa did not reflect quietly and decide she had been selfish. What changed was that they could no longer control the story with tears and vague phrases. Aunt Carol posted in everybody in one place that night. Donald didn't break this family. He stopped covering for a pattern the rest of us ignored. The chat went silent for almost 20 minutes, which might be a record for my family. Then a cousin texted me privately and said she was sorry. She admitted she had always thought I was distant, but now she understood I had been protecting myself. Another relative apologized for calling Grace controlling. A few people said they still thought family business should stay private, and I told them they were allowed to think that. I was also allowed not to erase the truth. My mom kept texting for a while. I was caught between two children. Aunt Carol replied in the group chat, "You made a choice and called it being caught." My dad tried 2 more times to offer money. First for the photographer, then for part of the reception. Then he suggested a proper family dinner to celebrate the marriage. I told him there was no replacement reception for parents who chose not to attend the real one. Vanessa posted vague quotes online about being villainized for having feelings. A few relatives liked them. A few others asked her why her feelings meant our parents had to miss my wedding. She left the group chat after accusing everyone of abandoning her. That word did not hit me the way it used to. Grace's parents never made a big dramatic show of taking my side. They just kept showing up. Her dad invited me over to help fix a loose fence panel, then made burgers afterward. Her mom sent Grace home with too many leftovers and packed a separate container for me. When they had a casual backyard gathering a few weeks later, Elaine and Richard were not invited. Grace told me afterward, "I don't invite people who insult my husband and then blame him for noticing." We sent thank you cards to everyone who came to the wedding. We did not send a special album link to my parents. I muted everybody in one place instead of making a grand announcement. Direct messages stayed open, but only for people who could speak respectfully and honestly. Mason and I were okay, but not because I pretended the voicemail was fine. We had another long talk. He apologized again, without defending himself. "You've been calling abandonment normal for as long as I've known you," he said. "I got tired of watching them bury it." "I know," I told him. "But next time, you hand me the shovel. You don't dig for me." He nodded. "Fair." A few weeks later, Aunt Carol texted me. "You were right not to take it down." I stared at that message longer than I expected. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't enjoy knowing my mother was embarrassed, or that my father was being questioned, or that Vanessa finally had to answer for something she thought would disappear under another family excuse. But I felt lighter. For the first time, nobody was asking me to delete reality so everyone else could sleep better. One night, Grace and I opened the wedding gallery together. The photographer had kept the empty seat images in a separate folder, just in case we wanted them. I clicked through them slowly. There they were. 2 chairs in the front row. 2 white cards. Elaine. Richard. They still hurt. Then I went back to the main album. Grace walking toward me. Mason standing beside me with red eyes and a crooked pocket square. Grace's father gripping my shoulder. Grace's mother dancing with me like there had never been any question whether I belonged on that floor. A room full of people who came. My parents cannot make up for the wedding. No check, dinner, tearful call, or rewritten story can recreate the moment they chose to miss. I don't need them to replace it anymore. Maybe the video embarrassed them. Maybe Mason should have asked before using the voicemail. Both things can be true. But I didn't make the chairs empty. I just stopped pretending they weren't. And I'm not saving front row seats in my life for people who only show up when it costs them nothing. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.